If you're following our content consistently, you would have been introduced to my friend Andrea Nakayama, who is also a good dancer. I will have everyone know here, and I witnessed that firsthand. But when I met with Andrea a few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago now, she really provided what we see as a missing piece. Is that in order for doctors and coaches and other providers to get on the same page, they need to have a framework in order to do that, a framework that's consistent between all the different types of providers in there. And I think that some of the things to do with the functional medicine model, the antecedents, triggers, and mediators, the timeline, this is all a big part of getting everyone on the same page. And what we also need more than anything is a scalable system for everyone to get there. We need 100,000 doctors and teams. We need them quickly. We can't really deal with groups of organizations that can only take 10, 25, 100 doctors through at a time. And so when I met Andrea and saw what she had done, not only has she been able to build this practice and this system that replicates her practice that's very successful in Portland, but it's scalable. And I shared on that webinar, the moment that I knew that Andrea was exactly the right fit for working together was because she put up a diagram. And I wish I had the diagram. I should have got the diagram. But last year, in May 2014, when Dr. Jeff Glad came on the Functional Forum, he talked about the micro-practice revolution. And he put up a picture here of farmers markets in America. Farmers markets 2005 and 2012, and showed just the massive progression of how many farmers markets. And he said, what if we could put an integrative micro-practice everywhere where there's a farmers market? It makes sense. The kind of people that go to a farmers market, they want to go to see an integrated provider. You think someone that does CrossFit or does paleo is going to go to a regular primary care doctor? Obviously not, because they know more about inflammatory nutrition than that doctor does. And so this is, that was the situation. And what I saw with Andrea, what she's been able to do is to create a scalable and replicable system to be able to help any practitioner understand functional medicine. But two, she has a network of providers all across the country that are already doing it. And one of the coolest things that Andrea has is an online portal where people can learn from each other online and in community. And community is the best way to learn. That's why you guys are all here. You meet these other providers outside and really, add so much value. And so it's my great pleasure to welcome Andrea to talk for her debut.
And spilling a little kombucha there with me. I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome to be here live, really incredible. And I'm sorry, I'm coming from Portland and it seems that I brought some of the weather with me, which left my bags in the ether with them, so no suitcase for me in my travels. I'm excited to be standing here tonight where so many of my functional medicine heroes have stood. Mark Hyman, Nicholas Gonzalez, Kelly Brogan, Frank Lippman, Susan Bloom, James Maskell, Leo Galland. Really exciting to just be standing here. But I'm particularly excited to be with all of you, my colleagues, some of my students are here, and to talk about the missing piece. We will talk about the missing piece, as James mentioned, but also the missing piece that we as practitioners have because we are trying to do so much. We don't have community and cohesion and collaboration in our practices. We tend to feel very isolated when we're doing this work, and we take on this Herculean notion that we can fix it all, that we can solve every problem, especially when we're working functionally and there's so much to uncover. So I'm excited to dive into where I think there is a place where we can let go and find some of that missing piece. Which way do I go here? So as James said, I'm Andrea Nakayama, and I'm a functional nutritionist, and I have an online practice, a virtual clinic, where we meet clients all over the globe. I have a team of nutritionists that work with me, and we also have programs that we've built for the end user that work different things about estrogen dominance and Hashimoto's and blood sugar balance. So scalable systems where we can work with multiple people at a time, hundreds of people at a time, to take them through experiences and bring them into a community where they can make change. And I'm also the founder and CEO of Holistic Nutrition Lab, which was the educational platform that James was talking about. And I tend to be known as the last best stop for people who are desperate. And I'm imagining that's true of many of us in this room as functional practitioners. We work with the people who have been there, done that. They may have seen 10 practitioners before coming to you. And that's a really awesome job to be able to see people like that. But it is also a really tough job. It's a lot of responsibility, and it can carry a lot of burden, especially when we're trying to do it alone. And when the ills of the world are growing bigger and bigger. We live in a world of outrageous pain and physiological suffering. And I see this in my practice on a daily basis, as I'm sure many of you do as well. And there are more and more people who aren't getting the help they need. They're not getting the support teams that Dr. Bloom was talking about because they're too sick. They're chronically ill. They have microbial imbalances. They have genetic polymorphisms. They have polyautoimmunity. And they're coming to us looking for some help to put it all together, to take that step, one step at a time. Oftentimes, we don't see the waterfall. We can't see it yet because there's so much more to uncover. And this is a huge responsibility, and it's why I'm really determined to make sure that we have some of that missing piece, because we're all carrying the weight of the world, and that world is getting sicker and sicker and sicker on much deeper levels. And what brought me here to you today and in the work I do was, I keep going the wrong way, was my own situation with my husband facing his own chronic illness. So my husband was diagnosed with a glioblastoma multiforme in April of 2000 when I was 7 weeks pregnant. And this was quite a journey that we went through. And what I found, just going back to the idea of heroes and being in the place where many of my functional medicine heroes have been, is that the hero in the health journey is really the patient. And Isamu was the hero that taught me that more than anybody else. And I'm reminded of that every day when I work with patients and clients and see their hero's journey. So a hero's journey starts with a call to action. Being diagnosed with a deadly brain tumor when your wife is 7 weeks pregnant is a big call to action. But each one of our patients and clients has a call to action that is their desire to come and seek you out, to come find you so they can help you. The next step in a hero's journey, and I know Gabe spoke about a hero's journey, is to seek some support, some advice. And that's where we come in. That's just what Susan Blum was talking about when she said we get to be that boost. We are that person on the hero's journey that really gets to support them. The next step in a hero's journey is letting go of the status quo. And this is just a miraculous thing to witness in our clients and patients, where we really get to see them making lifestyle changes and giving up on what they believed was true and deciding to make a change. It's a brilliant thing to witness. I am honored every day to walk this path with people. A hero's journey also includes crises and a resolution. And for Isamu, that resolution was unfortunate in that it led to his death, but seeing the transformation that he went through in 2.5 years of his illness was just really an amazing thing. His brother and I often wonder, when did he become so Buddha-like? When did that happen? Because along the way, he just transformed into somebody who was ready for the next step in his life. And for me, I will do anything to walk with people in that place of grace. And every single one of our patients and clients are in a traumatic situation. They are experiencing trauma, and it's our job to walk by their side. So the hero's journey is not about us. It's not about knowing more, learning more all the time. We can do that anyway. The hero's journey is about every single patient or client we see. And one of the things that really struck me during this time with Isamu's illness, almost 2.5 years, so he died when our son was 19 months old, and there's Gilbert at 13, but he's 14 years old now. And one of the things that was really amazing to me is to see how this man was treated by the medical profession. So we traveled around the country seeking the best support we could find because we were going to fight this like crazy. We were just starting our life together. And most doctors treated him like a dead man. He was treated like a glioblastoma. So here was a stoic, half Japanese, very proud man, and they would avert his eyes and turn and talk to me with pity and look at him with pity that he really didn't appreciate at all. And that was a really that was a rude awakening for me to see this man that I loved and respected treated like he was already gone. And it didn't help his journey either. So there were people who were amazing partners for us. There was the oncology nurse who made sure that he had his 24 pills of thalidomide every day, each pill with a pregnant woman with a slash through it. I can remember very clearly, after his insurance wouldn't pay for that thalidomide anymore. There was the acupuncturist who was a blood specialist who made sure that his white blood counts were fine so that he could continue treatment. There were heroes like this. One hero of mine was Dr. Mark Rennaker. Does anybody know Doc Rennaker's work? No, he's amazing. Doc Rennaker is a big wave surfer, and he is known for taking major risks in his life because it puts him close on the big waves to how he knows his patients feel. He's a trained oncologist, and he wasn't happy with the current medical model and treating cancer patients. And so he went off on his own and became a cancer advocate, an amazing advocate. He was the only person that would speak to us about what drip the chemotherapy could be in one sentence, and then talk to us about Iscador and chicken viruses from Israel in the next sentence. And he was the only person that was brave enough to say to us in the medical field, if it were me, this is what I would do. And that was a blessing to me because I knew that what he was telling us was important and real. And this brings me to the point I want to talk to you about, which is partnerships. And there's 3 different kinds of partnerships that I want to highlight for you. One of those is the partnership between the practitioner and the practitioner. And this is where the super coaches come in. And I love that Christy Hughes, who's on the staff at IFM, talks about how we are all super coaches. Just as James said, just as Dr. Bloom said, we are all coaches. It doesn't matter what our training is. But as practitioners, we need to work together on teams. Now, Doc Rennaker, he worked with our oncologists if we need to, but we were at the center of that relationship. It makes me think of my client Malia, who has superior canal dehiscence and Hashimoto's. And I believe that her vestibular issues are connected to her autoimmune issues. So I work with her endocrinologist to manage her medicine and her diet and her lifestyle with her. And I work with her surgeon to make sure that she has the right IV drip after 5 surgeries she's had on her inner ear so that she can clear the medication from the surgery more easily. We work together. They don't see me as lesser because I'm a nutritionist. They see me as wanting to help their patient, and we all put the patient at the top of that relationship. So as practitioners, we need to learn to work together, and this is where training is really important. To be health coaches, to be nutritionists that work in tandem with doctors and gain the respect is what I'm really a stand for, so that we can really be advocates for the patient. And what Doc Rennaker stands for, by the way, is patient advocacy. That's what he was all about. The second partnership that really needs to be highlighted is the partnership between the practitioner and the patient. And this is also what Dr. Bloom was talking about in terms of how you create a healing partnership. One of the things I love is a tenet in functional medicine where they say that the patient and the practitioner form a therapeutic partnership. What I find when we say that is that we all applaud the doctor in that relationship. And I want to start applauding the patient. And in order for the patient to be applauded in that relationship, we need to educate them. They need to understand what's going on so they can be their own patient advocate with every single member on their team. Because of my history, because of what I've been through, I am all about patient advocacy and the patient being able to step up and be a partner in their health care. So the third partnership is the patient with their own body. And this is where we've gotten so far away from understanding our basic physiology. We don't know what's going on in there, but we can teach people what's going on in there. And that is our job as functional practitioners, to elevate the patient's understanding of themselves. And that, to me, is where compliance comes from. I don't have the desire to be on top of my clients' every moves. I have the desire for them to be on top of their own moves. In the 1960s, there was a term called nonviolent communication. And I like to call this nonviolent communication with self. How is it that we listen into what's going on in our own body, and we can actually start to make adjustments based on that? The ATMs that James mentioned of functional medicine, the antecedents, the triggers, the mediators, those mediators are what a client or patient needs to know to modify their own behavior. They need to say, when I eat gluten, I feel tired. When I eat dairy, I get puffiness under my eyes. That's where they start to be their own advocate. So the patient's partnership with themselves is what's really key, and that's where education is a huge part of the puzzle. So I want to bring our attention to this. This is a coaching model, and 60% of a patient's success comes from their commitment. 30% from your presence. I'm going to call it your love in the relationship. And 10% from your expertise. And I like to point this out to my students because they're constantly on a quest to know more theory, more medical theory. And we all need to keep learning and educating ourselves, but it's really important to know where that falls in this diagram. So I'm going to show it to you another way just because I think this is so important. 60% comes from the patient's commitment to the process, and it's our job to ensure that commitment. And I think we ensure that commitment through education, through teaching the patient or client about themselves and how to mitigate their health. Does anybody know Shel Silverstein's story of the missing piece meets the big O? Okay, I love this story, and this takes us back to the PIEC part instead of the PEACE part, but they go together. So the missing piece was waiting for someone to come along and take it somewhere. And this is a lot of our patients. They are going from doctor to doctor to doctor, really just switching practitioners because they're waiting for the right pill, the right protocol, the right practitioner to just take them somewhere. But along comes the big O, and the big O is whole. And like Dr. Bloom said, I'm going to say this is us on our journey. It's our job to show up in wholeness for our patients and clients. And the big O suggests that the missing piece take a role. And the missing piece says, I can't do that by myself. And the big O says, have you given it a try? And really encourages it to do so. So here's the hero's journey. The missing piece lifts up, it pulls, it flops, it really tries to get there on its own, and slowly it begins rolling. And that's, like James said, what we want in healthcare. We want a model where the patients are rolling on their own. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're all better. That client, Malia, I would say she's one of the healthiest people I know, even though she can barely move. Her mindset is in the healthiest place I've ever seen, and it brings me to tears every time I talk to her because she's gone on a hero's journey. She's gone through an incredible transformation. So the patient, again, is at the center of our healthcare model, and that's what we all need to remember. They are really the hero, and our job as super coaches is to enable them to get to that place where they can roll. So this is where you can find me, Holistic Nutrition Lab, and if you'd like my free ebook, you could go to functionalnutrition101.com/functional. And I just wanted to tell quickly, some of my students might know, I have a little bit of a superhero complex myself, and some of you may know who that superhero is. It's a media superhero. I have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer complex. And I like to say that it's, sometimes I like to say it's because she's in love with a dead man. But also, Buffy, ultimately, if anybody's familiar with the show or the myth, ultimately she realized she couldn't save the world on her own. She had to train the other slayers to be. Is anybody familiar with Buffy, or am I the only Buffy fan? Okay. So she had to train the other slayers to be. She couldn't fight the world of problems on her own. And she had to really come into community and realize the powers, the superpowers of every single one of her friends. And that's how they saved the world. Saving the world for Buffy wasn't about doing it alone, even though for 7 seasons she has the complex, that Herculean complex. It was really about bringing everybody together, creating that community, that cohesion, and that togetherness that we're all doing here. And I want to thank James for all he's doing to allow that to happen. Thank you.
Yeah, so while we're all here, I would highly recommend, if you go to functionalnutrition101.com/functional, you can get Andrea's free ebook. And what it really sets up more than anything is the structure that's necessary for coaching to really get functional medicine and do it justice. So